I went to Tulane University in New Orleans from 54 till 1960. I majored in English literature and got a BA in English. Came back later to do a Master of Fine Arts in theater with emphasis on playwriting. While I was in New Orleans, I heard about Cajuns, but there was no Cajun band or dances that I knew of, and there's no records available for purchase. And I was told by one of the Cajuns on the football team that there was this dance hall in St. Martinville where they really cut up on the weekends. So I went over there and found a very lively place where no one spoke any English at all. I had to use my French to order my beer. And it was very hot. The beer was people were very lively, and the dance floor went up and down with the people dancing. They danced in a very definite beat, so everyone hit the floor at the same time. It caused the dance floor to go up and down. And I was inspired, and a few years later, I was in Houston doing a film on Gulf States Tube Corporation for the oil industry, and noticed in the newspaper there was a Cajun dance going on in somewhere outside of Houston. So I went out there and caught the dance and chatted with the group's leader when it was over, a fiddle player, and he invited me and my girlfriend home for chicken gumbo, and went through all the steps in making gumbo and described how to make the roux and how important it was. And I appreciated his generosity and his hospitality and his passion for his music, his culture, and cooking. And later went to L.A. to learn filmmaking. I went to USC from 60 to 62 to a PhD program in communications with emphasis on theater and cinema. And when I got out of there and worked around doing industrial films like the one in Texas, enough to make some money to start my first films on Lightning Hopkins and the Love Ends of Los Angeles, which were 67. And when I paid back my bills from selling those films to TV and to libraries, schools, I saved enough to buy a used camera, and I went down to Louisiana to start doing film in Cajun. Having also met Dewey Boffa shortly before that, who was playing at the Chicago Folk Festival. And I was up there doing an industrial film in Chicago and went to catch the festival. And that's around for a different trip. I'd gone to Ann Arbor for the Blues Festival and met Clifton Chenier, who I featured in a later film called Hot Pepper. Clifton was traveling with Lightning, who was married to his first cousin. They were close. They'd been close for some time, and I had done a film on Lightning in 67, so I knew him well enough to hang around with the two guys. Hot Pepper plunges the viewer deep into the music of Clifton Chenier and its sources in the surroundings of rural and urban Louisiana. The great French accordionist mixes rock and blues with his unique version of Zydeco music, a pulsating combination of Cajun French with African undertones. In addition to scenes of Clifton's bell dance halls, the film winds his music through the bayous and byways of the countryside, some of Blank's most stunning photography, and into the streets and homes of his people. Quote, the offhand folk wisdom and random jive that Blank loves so much is here in bounteous profusion, end quote. That's by Michael Goodwin, City Magazine. And then it quotes a line from the film, whatever you is, be that. If you're old and ugly, be old and ugly. Be like you is, that's right. And then there's a few dots, and it quotes from Clifton, have mercy to les jours n'est pas la même chose. Every day is not the same thing. And then Dry Wood, that's Blank, also with Maureen Gosling. In Dry Wood, the featured music is that of Boisec, Drywood, Ardouin, his sons, and Canray Fontenot. Theirs is an older, rural style of Cajun music which in the film weaves together in the lives of the Fontenot and Ardouin families. The film's highlights include a rollicking country Mardi Gras, work in the rice fields, a men's-only supper, and a hog butchering party that takes the hog from kill to sausage. Like other blank film, expresses respect for living life simply, lovingly, openly, and slowly. It's a quote from Eva Fontenot, who is featured in Dry Wood. When I was younger, I thought it was a great thing to be on earth and be alive because you know the meaning of every day what it meant. Now life is too fast. You don't enjoy it because everybody wants to go further down. As the children grow up, there's no jobs, nothing for them to do. They're leaving one by one. Eva Fontenot. Well, when I was doing the Cajun film, I got to know Boisec and Canley Fontenot. That's in 1970. And I had met Clifton, as I mentioned, in 69, but he didn't want to be in the film at that time because he wanted a lot of money, and I didn't have any money at all. And I wanted to include the Ardouins in my film on Cajuns, but I never had time to go visit them because the white people kept inviting me to more and more suppers, and I eventually ran out of money. Also, the racial tension would not easily have allowed me to go back and forth from one group to the other, although among Cajuns there seems to be more tolerance spent. But it was still kind of tough doing that. So I applied for a grant from the National Endowment to go back and do a film just on the black French-speaking people of the area. And then I went back and I lived in a black rooming house in Bow Bridge, and the white police came by to harass me. And fortunately, I had already had connections with the government down there from having been busted for pot the year before in Crowley, around Evangeline Parish. And in the course of getting myself out of that, my bail bondsman was Marion Edwards, whose brother was the governor-elect Edwin Edwards. And his third brother, Nathan Edwards, was a local lawyer, served as my lawyer. And they did the film I made on the Cajuns and wrote me a glowing letter when I needed some help from them to get the police off of me. So that helped there. And then over in, when I was doing Dry Wood over about Mamou, I stayed with Boisec in his house. And no one seemed to know about it. It didn't bother me if they did, if they cared. Well, I wasn't questioning, I was just seeing what I could see. I wasn't going in with an agenda to dig out what the race relations were like. If it was a part of a story, like, and it seemed appropriate, I would do so, but I did not end up going in that direction. I knew, for instance, that Amédée Ardouin, who's considered the father of Cajun and Creole music, he and the white fiddle player would often play together, and they one borrowed the black rhythms of the other, and the other borrowed the Acadian melodies of the white condition. What came out of it was a blend, which is in Zydeco music today. But he was killed by a white woman had dropped her handkerchief at a dance, and he picked it up to give it to her, and he was beat up by a white man and killed. But that could have been a story if I wanted to follow that. But there's plenty of room to get into a film like that, but it wasn't really what I seemed to be after. It was a visual anthropology, they call it. And it was a group of people who had been doing an annual university. Jay Ruby, I believe, was the guy who instigated it in Philadelphia. And I've been there with my films on blues and the Cajuns, perhaps Spend It All, A Well-Spent Life, the blues according to Lightning Hopkins. And when I submitted my film Dry Wood and Hot Pepper, they told me they were having a meeting in Washington at the Smithsonian, and it was a very elaborate affair. And they showed the film in the banquet room, so people were able to relax and have their dinner and their after-dinner drinks, and they showed the film, and there's a terrific audience, and people appreciated it a lot. Well, that was an incredibly exciting showing. The audience, that may have been the first public showing of the film, but the audience was super, and couldn't have been better. It was a very wild Austin audience, and they were very responsive.